and Auditor General. And the fifth is parliamentary committees. So in a democracy, only the legislature, that is parliament, has the power to allow the government to collect taxes, and it allows it to spend the money. So before the government spends money, it must take permission from the parliament, and this is called budget approval. So what happens after the budget approval? After the budget is passed, the finance ministry distributes funds, and different ministries use that money. So who checks whether the money is used properly or not? So this is where we have CAG, which is Comptroller and Auditor General. So the CAG acts like a watchdog of Parliament. CAG audits government spending, it checks misuse of money, it checks the corruption, and it checks the irregularities. And then it gives a report to the Public Accounts Committee. Even though many bodies are involved, the final control is with the Parliament. But the Parliament is very large and busy, so it uses committees to do a detailed checking. And the main committees are Public Accounts Committee, Estimates Committee, and Committee on Public Undertakings. So now let us understand why committees are needed. First reason is government needs money. Just like any organization, the government cannot function without money. So financial efficiency is very important and money must be used properly. And the second reason is the legislature control. The legislature must ensure that the money is spent honestly and that no wastage happens. And also that the taxpayer money is used properly. So the third reason is Parliament cannot do everything. Now let's think practically, like Parliament is very large and it has many responsibilities and it has very limited time. So it cannot check every account and it cannot analyze every budget. So what is the solution we have for it? Which is committees. So the committees are much smaller groups and it consists of the experts who do the detailed work. So some of the advantages of these committees are, firstly, they are in smaller groups, means there will be better discussions and there is no party pressure. So when there is no party pressure, there is more honest discussion. And they also have closed door meetings, means they do some serious analysis. And there will also be more technical understanding. So the important point is that committees act like trustees of public money. That means they protect taxpayers' money. So now let's look into these committees in detail. The first is the Public Accounts Committee. So the Public Accounts Committee, it consists of 22 total members. And in this 22, it consists of 15 members from the Lok Sabha and 7 from the Rajya Sabha. So the total of 15 from Lok Sabha and 7 from Rajya Sabha is nothing but 22. So the total members in Public Accounts Committee is 22. And the members are elected using proportional representation and single transferable vote. And the tenure is of 1 year. So the chairman of Public Accounts Committee is appointed by the Speaker, and the chairman is generally from the chairman will be from the opposition party, because in that case there can be neutrality and fairness which can be ensured if the chairman is from the opposition. Now let's look into functions. So the main function of Public Accounts Committee is it checks how money is spent. It examines government accounts. It examines financial accounts. It examines audit report by CAG. The Public Accounts Committee also ensures that money is spent properly and that there is no misuse which is happening and that there is no corruption which is happening and that the expenditure is following the rules. This is what the Public Accounts Committee mainly, it ensures. The first is it ensures that money is spent properly. And the second, that no money is being misused. And thirdly, Public Accounts Committee ensures that there is no corruption. And fourthly, Public Accounts Committee also ensures that the expenditure follows the rules. So basically, it checks if the money is used for the correct purpose or if the money, was being spent legally or if the spending is legal or was there any kind of unnecessary spending or if the rules are being followed, the rules are being followed. So these are all checked by the Public Accounts Committee. So the Public Accounts Committee checks whether the money is used for the correct purpose. If the spending was legal. Thirdly, if there was any unnecessary spending. Fourthly, were the rules followed. All these things will be checked by the Public Accounts Committee. Some of the additional functions of Public Accounts Committee include Public Account Committees also check government companies and autonomous bodies and extra expenditure beyond the budget. This is all also being checked by the Public Accounts Committee. So now how does this Public Accounts Committee work? Firstly, the Comptroller and Auditor General gives report and the Public Accounts Committee studies it. So after the report is submitted to the Public Accounts Committee by the CAG, then the Public Accounts Committee studies it. And then it calls its officials and asks questions and collects the evidence. So this is basically the process of Public Accounts Committee. First, CAG gives its report. Then Public Accounts Committee will study that report. And then it will call all the officials. Then they will be asking the questions. And then it collects the evidence. This is basically the process of how Public Accounts Committee works. So what are the powers of Public Accounts Committee? Public Accounts Committee, it can call people, it can ask for documents, and it can investigate. These are the main powers of the Public Accounts Committee. It can call people, it can ask for the documents, it can investigate. And the final step is that Public Accounts Committee, it gives its recommendations and submits its report to the Parliament. And then the government usually accepts the report submitted by the Public Accounts Committee and its recommendations. So basically then the Public Accounts Committee gives its recommendations and submits its report to the Parliament in the final stage. And then government usually accepts this Public Accounts Committee recommendations. So let's now look into some of the criticisms against the Public Accounts Committee. One of the main criticisms is that Public Accounts Committee works after the money is spent. Okay, but still it is important because it can detect corruption, it can prevent future mistakes, and it creates fear in administration. So basically, the Public Accounts Committee is like a watchdog of public money. Now let's look into the second committee, which is the Estimates Committee. So the Estimates Committee, it consists of 30 members. And all these 30 members are from Lok Sabha only. In Public Accounts Committee, it consists of members from both the Lok Sabha as well as Rajya Sabha. But in Estimates Committee, we only have members from Lok Sabha. And they will be elected by proportional representation. Ministers cannot be members. The chairman of estimates committee is appointed by the speaker. Now let's look into the functions of estimates committee. This committee works before the money is spent. Unlike public accounts committee, which works after the money is spent, the estimates committee works before the money is spent. It examines budget estimates, and its main aim is to reduce unnecessary expenditure. So some of the functions include: it suggests economy, it improves efficiency, it suggests better policies, it checks if money is well planned, and it improves budget presentation. Or it also selects its ministers, collects information. Sorry, it also selects ministries, it collects information, it calls officials, and conducts field visits. So the final step after all of this is the estimates committee then gives report to the Lok Sabha. So the criticism against estimates committee is that sometimes it focuses too much on policies and it becomes fault finding. But it is still useful because it suggests reforms, improves administration, and helps long-term planning. Now let's look into the third committee, which is Committee on Public Undertakings. So why is it created? Because public sector companies are increased and they need special monitoring. Okay, basically now we have a lot of public sector companies and they do need special monitoring. The composition of Committee on Public Undertakings is that 22. Again 15 from Lok Sabha, 7 from Rajya Sabha. And the functions of Committee on Public Undertakings are: it checks public sector companies firstly, it checks CAG reports, comptroller and auditor reports, it checks its business efficiency. So the functions of Committee on Public Undertakings is that firstly it checks public sector companies, it checks CAG reports, it checks business efficiency. It also ensures proper management, profitability, and efficiency. Committee on Public Undertakings checks public sector companies, CAG reports, business efficiency, and it also ensures proper management, profitability, and efficiency. So, how does this committee work? It selects its undertakings, it collects the data from those undertakings, and it verifies that data with the facts, and then it submits its report. Okay, so how does this Committee on Public Undertakings work? It basically selects the undertakings, and from those selected undertakings, it collects data. And then that data will be verified with the facts. And then this committee submits its report after verifying the facts. So one of the criticisms one of the criticisms of Committee on Public Undertakings is that it has limited capacity and it can only study few companies. So these are some two criticisms against the Committee on Public Undertakings, which is it has limited capacity and can study only few companies. But it is still useful because it improves performance and provides valuable suggestions. Now let's look into the role of all these committees. So sometimes the control is not very strong. For example, the Public Accounts Committee it works after spending. Estimates committee, it suggests improvements. And committee on public undertakings, it monitors public enterprises. So overall, the role of these committees is that it ensures accountability, it improves efficiency, and it prevents misuse. These are the main role of these committees. Firstly, to ensure accountability, to improve efficiency, and to prevent misuse. So we can summarize that the parliament controls government spending, but it cannot do everything alone. So these committees are created. So these three important committees are, like I mentioned, Public Accounts Committee, which checks the spending, Estimates Committee, which checks the estimates, and Committee on Public Undertakings, which checks public enterprises. Even though they have limitations, these committees improve financial discipline, ensure accountability, and protect the public money. So now let's look into Unit 6. So in this unit, you'll be after this unit, you'll be able to understand how the money is shared between the center and the states. So Unit 6 is about union state financial relations. And we will also look into the Finance Commission and Comptroller and Auditor General. So, so after this unit, you will be able to understand how money is shared between the center and the states. And you will be able to understand why states are financially weak. And you will also be able to understand the role of Financial Commission and the CAC, Comptroller and Auditor General. First, let's start from the basics. So basically, you all know that India follows a system called federal system. So what does it mean? It means that power is divided between two levels, central government and then state governments. Both have their own powers and responsibilities. But India is not a perfect federation and it is called a quasi-federal system. It is called quasi-federal system. Why? Because the center is more powerful than the states. That is why we call it quasi-federal system. And the constitution divides power into three lists: union list, state list, and concurrent list. So, union list is that list which consists of all the items in which only center can make laws. For example, in defense, foreign affairs, railways, these are some areas in which only center can make changes, or I mean, only center can make laws. That is union list. So, union list is something, it is a list which consists of items on which only center can make laws, on which only center can have powers, like defense, foreign affairs, and railways. And then we have state list. In state list, it consists of items on which only states can make laws. Example, police, agriculture, and health. So basically, state list consists of items on which only states can make laws. Okay, like police, agriculture, and health. And the third one is the concurrent list. Concurrent list consists of items on which both the union as well as the state can make laws. Like, for example, education, labor laws, etc. And for example, if there is any conflict in between the union laws that are made by the union and the state, in case of conflict in between two, and ultimately the center prevails. Okay, now we can see how center is more powerful than the state. So we call it a quasi-federal system because the center is more powerful than the states. We call it quasi-federal system. So, what is the financial importance? What is the importance of money? In simple words, political power is useless without money. So, both center and states they need their financial independence. But in reality, we see states actually depend heavily on the center, which generally creates conflicts, complaints, and tension. So, what is the importance of finance? In simple words, political power is useless without money. Now, let us understand how money was divided before GST. So, basically, basically the taxes are divided into different categories. First, taxes collected and kept by center. For example, corporation tax, customs duty, and then center collects and keeps everything. And then taxes collected by center but shared with state. For example, income tax and excise duty. Basically, center collects these taxes and then shares it with the state. And thirdly, we have taxes collected by state but levied by the center. For example, estate duty and terminal duty. Center imposes and the state collects and keeps those taxes. And then we have state taxes which are fully for the state. For example, land revenue, agricultural tax, sales tax, and vehicle tax. So there are different types of categories in tax. So first one is taxes collected and kept by the center, in which center collects and keeps everything. These are taxes collected and kept by the center, like corporation tax and customs duty. And the second type are those taxes which are collected by center but shared with the states. Okay, center basically collects these taxes and then it shares with the states, like income tax and excise duty. Okay, these are the taxes which are collected by the center and shared to the states. And the third type of taxes are collected by the states but levied by center. For example, estate duty and terminal taxes. These are the taxes which center imposes but states collects and keeps them. So the taxes collected by states but levied by the center. Center is only imposing these taxes, but these imposed taxes are collected by the states and kept with the state. Okay, this is the third type of taxes. And then fourth type is state taxes. It is fully states. Example, land revenue, agricultural tax, sales tax, and vehicle tax. So what are some restrictions on states? So basically, states cannot tax on imports or exports. States cannot tax on interstate trade. And states cannot tax on the essential goods. These are some restrictions on taxes. So now let's look into the grants in aid. Center gives money to states through grants based on need, decided with help of the finance commission. So basically, center gives money to states through some grants based on the need of the state, and this is decided by the finance commission. So finance commission decides if states need some money and if state wants some money, and then finance commission basically decides based on the need which the state is asking whether they should give money or not. Well, that is nothing but grants in aid. And the borrowing powers. Center can also borrow from anywhere, and state can only borrow within the center's permission. Okay, in borrowing powers, center can borrow from anywhere, but states can borrow only with the center's permission. Now let's look into the weak position of states. Firstly, dependence on central planning. The Niti Ayog is controlled by the center and it decides development projects for the states. Okay, this is one reason for the weak position of states. And the second point is that foreign aid control. All foreign lands or aid comes through center, and state cannot directly deal with the foreign agencies. And thirdly, power of center. Center can shift subjects from state list to concurrent list, and this will reduce the state power. And the fourth point for weak states is the political bias. Sometimes center may favor states ruled by the same party, and other states may feel neglected. This is nothing but the political bias. So overall, states are financially dependent, and center controls most resources. So what are the reasons for the weak states? Firstly, dependence on central planning. And second, all foreign loans, aids, and for all foreign loans or aid comes through the center, which is foreign aid control. And the third point is the power of center. And the fourth final reason for the weak state is political bias. Okay, so overall states are financially dependent, and center controls most resources. After GST reform, now comes a very important topic, GST. Introduction of GST. GST was introduced in 2016, and it was the amendment happened in 2016, and it was implemented in 2017. So what is GST? GST means goods and services tax. It basically replaced many taxes and created one nation, one tax. So, what are the benefits of GST? It removed multiple taxes at various levels, and it unified the market, and it reduced check post delays. It also improved the economy. So, what are the types of GST? First is CGST, which is central government. Then we have SGST, which is for state government. And then we have IGST. IGST is interstate trade. Now let's look into the GST Council. GST Council is a very important body. GST Council, it consists of Union Finance Minister as its head, and its members consist of state finance ministers. And decisions are 75% majority. It is the example of cooperative federalism. And what are the problems in GST Council? So states were promised compensation for losses, but delays happened, and states faced some financial issues. These are some problems faced by the state in GST Council. Now let's look into the Finance Commission. Why do we need a Finance Commission? So basically, Finance Commission is a body created under Article 280. It was first set up in 1951, and it consists of 4 members plus one chairman. What are the main functions of Finance Commission? Some of the functions of Finance Commission are: it divides tax money between center and state, it decides grants in aid, and it helps local bodies like panchayats and municipalities, and it advises the president. So the functions of Finance Commission are: it divides money between center and states, it decides grants in aid, it helps local bodies like panchayats and municipalities, and it advises president. So these are some functions of Finance Commission. Now let's look into the CAG, Comptroller and Auditor General. So the CAG basically, he audits government accounts. He ensures if the money is used properly. Okay, this is basically the role of CAG. The Comptroller and Auditor General of India, he audits government accounts. He ensures that the money is used properly. And the CAG has independent authority. based on the constitutional position. So it has its independence. So basically, its independence, according to Article 148, is that it's difficult to remove the comptroller and auditor general, and their salaries are protected, and they cannot be reappointed. That is the independence of comptroller and auditor general. They are also appointed by the president, and their term is either 6 years or till the age of 65, whichever is earlier. So, what are the duties of comptroller and auditor general? Firstly, accounting, to maintain accounts format and to prepare reports. And the second duty is the auditing. They check all government spendings, they detect misuse, and they ensure the legality. So the CAG basically acts like a watchdog. It prevents corruption, it highlights irregularities. And some of the limitations of comptroller and auditor general is that they cannot punish anyone. They can only, report the problems, but the power of punishment is not in the hands of comptroller and auditor general. They can just make reports regarding the problems. It also works with the Public Accounts Committee. So basically, India is a union of states